Okay, today we're doing Algebra Lecture 4. We're going to be starting on page 111 in the textbook. We're going to go through this chapter and then a very brief exposure to radical expressions, exponents, cubic roots, how to simplify those. You'll go into that more in your Energy Essentials program. We're going to start with simplifying a rational expression. On the top of page 111, the example they give us to start with is x squared minus 1 over x squared minus 3x plus 2. They want us to simplify this. So what we need to do is factor both lines into their smallest pieces. So let's start with our top line here. This is a perfect square. So I know that that can be factored down into x plus 1 times x minus 1, right? And then if I go through and FOIL that, x times x, x squared, minus 1x plus 1x, so there's my middle terms that cancel out, minus 1. I need to do the same thing down on the bottom. I need to get some factors. And what I want is to get a factor that's the same as what's on my top line, so things will cancel out. So I have an x and an x. That will give me my x squared. The only factors of 2 are 1 and 2. And I have a negative 3x. So that means both of those need to be a negative. And that will give me the x squared minus a 2x minus a 1x. So there's my negative 3x. And the negative 1 times negative 2 is a positive 2. So now that I have simplified each line of the fraction, I want to go through and cancel common factors. So my x minus 1 here and my x minus 1 there, those are common factors that can cancel out. So remember when we had a fraction, if I have, say, 3 over 3, it's really equal to a 1. Right? So the same thing happens here. X minus 1 over x minus 1 is equal to a 1. So then I have 1 times x plus 1, which is 1. You can leave the 1 off. And then on the bottom, I have an x minus 2. So that's my simplified version of this expression. So we're going to do the same thing we did last time. We're going to work through the evens in the homework to get a little bit more practice. So if you skip to page 116 where the homework begins, question 8a says x minus 4 over negative 7x plus 28. So I know that I have an x minus 4. That's as simple as it goes. So I need something on the bottom to look like that in order to cancel. So keep my x minus 4. And then down on the bottom, is there a number that I can pull out of both of those numbers? Yes, I can pull out a 7. And I'll have an x there. Do I want to pull out a negative 7 or a positive 7? If I pull out the negative 7, then that can be a negative 4, right? So negative 7 times x, negative 7x, times the minus 4 would put me back at plus 28, which is what I started with. So then my x minus 4 will cancel, and my x minus 4 will cancel. So I'll be left with 1 over a negative 7. So that would be the simplified version of 8a. 8b is 3x minus 18 all over 6x squared minus 12x. So let's start with our top line. 3x minus 18. Is there a number I can pull out of both of those? Yes, the 3. So 3x, and then what do I times 3 by to go back to an 18? 6, and it's negative. Okay, so there's my top line simplified. Then down on the bottom, I want to end up with an x minus 6 somehow. So I can pull out an x from both of those terms. All right. And if I pull out a 6, what's going to happen? So let's pull out a 2. If I pull out a 2x, then I would have 3x minus 6. So those don't look quite the same, do they? What can I do here? Is there anything I can do here? What if I try and pull out something different? Is there any way I can get an x minus 6 alone? Let's pull out, what if I pull out the 6? So I'll have 3 over x minus 6. And then down below, if I pull out a 6x, I'll have what? An x minus 2. So that may be as simple as it goes, because this looks like it should work, but it didn't give me any terms that I could cancel. So that would probably be where I would stop right there. That's as simple as it goes. None of those will cancel. Let's try 10a. R squared plus 3r minus 10 on top over r squared plus r minus 6 on bottom. Let's try factoring both of those lines independently. On the top, what times what is r squared? R. So r times r, and then factors of 10, 1 and 10, 2 and 5. Which one's most likely to get me a 3? Okay, the 2 and 5. So positive or negative? My 3r is a positive. That means I want my 5r to be the positive, minus 2r. So there's my positive 3r and my negative 10. And then on the bottom, we need to do the same thing. R times r is r squared. And factors of 6, 1 and 6, 2 and 3. I need 1 r left over, so I want to use the 2 and the 3. My 3 needs to be positive, and my 2 needs to be negative. That worked out really nicely. Those terms will cancel. I'm left with r plus 5 over r plus 3. (10b) m squared plus 3m minus 4 over m squared minus 4m. Okay, work each line. Let's start with our top line. So what times what is m squared? M. And then factors of 4, 1 and 4, 2 and 2. I have 3m. So let's use the 1 and the 4. And I need my 4 to be the bigger number, so it's positive, and my m minus 1. Down on the bottom, m squared minus 4m. I actually probably want to pull an m out first. So I'll have m times m minus 4. So m minus 4 and m plus 4 cannot cancel. So that would be the simplified version of this problem. I would have m times m minus 4 over m minus 1 times m plus 4. do 12a v squared minus 3v minus 28. There's my top line. Then I have 49 minus v squared on the bottom. So the first thing I need to do is put those in the correct order. So let's start by factoring out our top one. So v times v is v squared. Then factors of 28. 7 and 4 are probably the most likely to get me to the 3. I need my 3v to be negative, so my 7 is going to be the negative. 4 is going to be the positive. So there's v squared plus 4v minus 7v. There's my negative 3v, and then a negative 28. So remember, my top needs to be flipped around. So I actually have a negative v squared plus a 49. Remember, what's our rule when we have our leading coefficient is a negative? We want to pull that out. So I would rewrite this as a negative 1 times v squared minus 49. Now I can tell looking at that those are perfect squares. So on the top, I'm going to have v minus 7 times v plus 4. Then on the bottom, remember, pull the negative 1 down, and then I want to factor. So factoring perfect squares, remember, we use v and then 7 and 7, 1 positive and 1 negative. So I end up with v squared minus 7v plus 7v, so those cancel out, minus 49. Then I have a v minus 7 that can cancel, and a v minus 7 that can cancel down there. So my final answer is v plus 4 on top over negative 1 times v plus 7 on bottom. B u squared minus 10u plus 25 all over 25 minus u squared. So they're similar again. Those need to be rearranged. Let's start on top. So what times what is u squared? U. And then factors of 25 that are going to get me to 10 are 5 and 5. I have a negative 10u, which means these both need to be negative. So I'll have u squared minus 5u minus 5u. There's my negative 10u. And then a positive 25. Then down on the bottom, it's really negative u squared plus 25. So I want to pull that negative 1 out. U squared minus 25. And there's perfect squares again. So on top, I'll have u minus 5 times u minus 5. And on bottom, negative 1. And u, 5, 5. Remember, with perfect squares, one is a positive and one is a negative. So my u minus 5s will cancel. And this is my final answer. U minus 5 over negative 1 times u plus 5. So let's get back into the chapter for a minute. Make sure we understand. We're trying to simplify these expressions here. Example 2 on page 111 says, write this expression in the simplest form. I have 6 minus 2x all over x squared minus 9. So looking at the top, I want to change the order there. I want it to be a negative 2x plus 6. Now, are there any common numbers or terms that I can pull out? Yeah, let's pull out the negative 2. If I pull that out, then I'm going to have x minus 3 on top. And then down below, perfect squares, I'm going to have x plus 3 times x minus 3. Now I want to cancel out common terms. So that's my x minus 3 on top and on bottom. I'm left with negative 2 on top over x plus 3 on bottom. Good. Where did we stop in the homework? We stop on 14. Okay, so skip back to page 117. Let's try 14a. Is 5m to the negative 3 n to the 5th. So you have to remember our negative exponents here. Times negative 10 m n squared. Okay, remember each of these terms is separate. So 5 over negative 10, how will that simplify down? So 5 goes into itself once and twice into 10. Then my m, remember when I have a negative exponent, you need to flip it over. So my m to the third is going to come down below. And then I'll have a 1 up top. And then I have another m. And then I still have n to the 5th and n squared on bottom. So the n squareds on the bottom are going to cancel. So 5 minus 2 is 3. So I'll be left with n to the 3rd on top. Then one more step. I have 1 over 2. That's as simple as it gets. N to the 3rd on top. And then m to the 3rd times m. So we need to use product or power property.
You should have thought about doing online.
Okay, the product. So m third times m.
It's a lot easier.
M to the 4th. So there's our final answer. Let's try 14b. Is negative 5b plus 20 over 25. Okay, work each line separately, so let's start on the top. I can pull out a 5, can't I? So if I pull out a negative 5, I'm left with v minus 4. And then down on bottom, 25. Okay. So 5 over 25, will that simplify? Yes. So 5 goes into itself once, and into 25 5 times, and 1's a negative. And then I have b minus 4 left over. I can leave it like that, or I can distribute that negative 1 back through. So I would have negative v plus 4 on top over 5 on bottom. Either one's okay, because they're the same way, just written different things. So sorry, they're the same thing written a different way. 14c n squared minus 4 over 2 minus n. So again, in the wrong order down on the bottom. So on top, perfect squares again. So n plus 2 times n minus 2. And then on the bottom, I really have a negative n plus 2. To cancel, it needs to look like one of those others, so let's pull a negative 1 out. So that would be rewritten as negative 1 times n minus 2. Now I have some terms I can cancel, right? N minus 2 on top and bottom. So my final answer is n plus 2 over a negative 1. Let's try 14D is w to the 4th minus w to the 4th v over w to the 3rd v minus w to the 3rd. Okay. This is easy to see. I have some terms I can pull out, don't I? So on top, I want to pull out the w to the 4th. That will be rewritten as 1 minus v. Then on bottom, if I pull out the w to the 3rd, I'll have v minus 1. My w's, 3 of them will cancel, won't they? So that will disappear. I'll be left with 1 on the top. Now, 1 minus v and v minus 1, I need to probably rearrange that so I can see what I'm doing. If I rewrite this as, what? A negative v plus 1, then I pull out a negative 1, so I would end up with negative 1 times v minus 1 on top over v minus 1 on bottom. So then those terms will cancel out. And I'll be left with the negative 1 and a w on top. So negative 1w is my answer. This step right here, where I switched out my negatives, is often confusing. And in the book you'll see that they do a shortcut way. Instead of rewriting it so that my terms look the same, they just will cancel those out automatically and make a negative 1. So don't get confused on that.